Hello, if you are watching this video, you are in Composition 2. By now, I expect that you've had some experiences in writing. However, you might not feel that you are the best writer, you might not always enjoy it, and those things are okay. This video is just a short confidence building, quick overview of writing and just a way to kind of get you started about what I think about writing so you can think of it less as a arduous task and more of a exploration and sharing of your ideas and writing. So let's begin. What I really want you to do is trust yourself. You have a lot of writing experience. It doesn't matter if you are a high school student taking college credit plus classes, a student who has graduated high school recently, or someone who is much older and coming back to school for the first or second time. You have a lot of writing experience. It may not always be formal, but you have experiences. Not all these experiences, of course, are equal. Some are better. You might have had different teachers, and that's all okay because we come into this world as blank slates and we all have to learn writing and speaking individually. We are kind of the product of our experiences, our teachers, and our reactions. And so, how you write is reflective of all that. But I want you to realize that the only way to get better at writing is to write. Just like learning any other skill, it takes time. It takes practice, reiteration. It takes messing up, doing poorly, making mistakes, being rewarded, doing well, and getting that positive feedback. As we learn to write better, you'll need to learn what you do well and what you don't do well so you can address those weaknesses. If you've ever taken any sort of private lessons, whether it's piano when you were a kid or music lessons or anything like that, I generally think of piano because that was my first introduction to practice. But you have those times where it just really stinks. It's not easy, it's hard, it's frustrating. It's very fun to do the things that are easy and that you can do well, and you never want to work on the harder stuff that might be beneficial. We will have to do some of that. So, addressing our weaknesses, part of that comes from learning what they might be, and that's why we have teachers. What I hear a lot from students is that they don't necessarily dislike writing, but they just don't really want to do it. But there's a lot of reasons why they don't like writing, especially writing courses and writing for school and writing papers. One is because it takes a lot of time. Yes, it does, unfortunately. People often misjudge how long it will take to write a paper, or at least to write it well. People have trouble coming up with what to say or the length of what they need to say, the depth or the scope of what they have to say. And that takes practice as well, coming up with topics and figuring out what to say. People might say, oh, well, I'm just horrible at grammar. Yeah, that's a problem, but those are the rules and the functions of how writing works, right? Good grammar is not necessarily good writing. We have to keep that in mind. So part of it is learning practice. Not learning practice, but practicing the various conventions, but also learning that we have to let go of some of those conventions when we draft and not worry too much about being proper, but getting those ideas down. Sometimes we just don't know what to say, or maybe we felt we've said it all. That comes again with practice. Maybe you've had bad teachers who were discouraging or overly critical. Well, we have to work around that. And then finally, there is the dreaded writer's block, which kind of combines all those previous things that I just mentioned on this list. I will tell you that I don't think writer's block exists. Instead, we have to learn to write around writer's block. It's just a convenient excuse. So rather than saying I have writer's block, we might say, well, I'm having trouble with these things, and then you can probably actually address them. One of the things I want us to think about is this difference between writing as a process and writing as a product. This is something that gets confusing because you have to write these papers that have to be turned in and graded. They're judged and evaluated. That is very much a product. However, this course is designed that we develop writing through a process. We don't just do something once and turn it in and be done with it. No, we have to really to start develop these ideas. And all writing starts with an idea. How do we say these things that we want to say? And if you have something in your head that you don't know quite how to say it, that's brilliant. That's wonderful. You want to encourage that and foster it. Nobody sits down and writes the perfect thing in one fell swoop. Well, some people do, but nobody likes those people, and they're few and far between. Most of us struggle, even the professionals, even people like your instructors. We have to go through and follow this writing process of developing an idea and exploring it, giving it time. We're often graded during the middle of the development of these ideas, and that's why it might be frustrating. But just because it's graded doesn't mean we have to stop. Writing continues to grow. Our ideas continue to grow even after we submit them. So you need to take your time to write and revise. Start early. Don't try to crank it out the night before because it will not be good. Okay? It's like last minute Christmas shopping. Yeah, you get it done, but is it really reflective of what you think was worthy of that person, right? Okay, so, I skipped it way ahead. I'm sorry. So part of this process is that writing is a conversation. We write for purposes and for audiences. The only reason to write is to say something, even if it means that it's not going to be heard. But the idea is that we say it, we get it off our chest. It's that catharsis of writing. It's a cathartic process. Or we might actually have something to say that we want a response. I often say in Composition 1 that all writing is responsive. And I'll say that here too. All writing responds to something. Whether it's an idea that you created, a solution to a problem, an argument you want to make, a proposal, a statement you want to make, it responds to something. Most of our experiences, however, is the purpose is an assignment and the audience is the teacher. And you find yourself either having to risk something by saying something that you don't think the teacher will like, or you learn just to write to that one teacher. But this is not how most written communication works, whether it's text messages, emails, job application, resumes, reports, or any of the writing you do in work or other environments where it's a singular audience. No, we write for that person. We know that when you talk to your mom, you're going to be talking differently than how you talk to your friends. When you're talking to your boss or a judge or a police officer, you speak differently because you're reacting to the entire rhetorical situation of that context, as opposed to writing just for your teacher. So writing is adaptive. Our handbook, the Little Seagull Handbook, talks about writing contexts in the sections W1 and W2, and we will be looking at those a lot. But the main two purposes are, contexts are purpose and audience. So all writing has a purpose. Those purposes usually are persuade, informing, or entertaining, or some combination of those three things. What you are trying to do influences how well you do it and how you do it. We might say, well, if it's not being read, why should you bother? Meaning, if nobody's going to read it, why write it? Or why do a good job? If it's not worth a lot of points, doesn't matter at all. Or if it's worth 200 points, are you going to spend a lot more time on it? That's going to influence your purpose. If it can shape your future, does it mean more? Meaning writing a scholarship application or a job application letter, those sorts of things. The purpose is going to not only influence our importance, but what we put into it. If you don't care, if you don't know why you're doing it, it's going to make it harder for you to actually want to do it. So hopefully, as we write for this class, we will have things that you actually want to write and say. In addition, there's audience. The audience is going to affect your purpose. Who's reading is going to shape how you achieve the purpose. Writing a persuasive piece for a skeptical audience changes your approach, as opposed to one who already agrees. So who is going to be your audience? And how do you address these things? What do they value? What do they care about? What is going to change their minds? Writing something you know will be read by other people you care about changes how you write it. Writing something for your mom or your grandma is going to be a lot different than just writing something for an anonymous person. Writing something that is going to be read by, let's say, someone famous or well-known is going to change how you approach it and write it than writing for somebody you don't even care about. And then writing something you believe in or are passionate about is going to influence how you write. If you really care about this something or it's really your belief, you're going to want to make sure that it's effective and people understand that rather than something you don't care about. So these are things we're going to think about as we select topics. Basically, our knowledge is power. You need to know what you're trying to do. You need to know who's going to do the reading. In addition, we might say, well, we need to know the most effective ways to influence our audience and get our purpose across. That might be things like how we, the style of writing that we do, the tone, the word choice, and even the genre. Maybe a long essay isn't going to be the best way to write it, but doing a short video. So those things are going to be important as we go along in this course. You have to write for your reader. You guide your reader through your paper. You don't just throw a bunch of words and expect the reader to figure it out. You have to make sure that your writing is easy to read, that it gets your point across. And that's why good organization is important. A good introduction, a good claim, a good main idea, and good support. Make it relatable. You aren't just writing for me, your professor. I want you to imagine an audience. I don't know exactly who that audience will be, but it might be your classmates. It might be somebody who is able to make a decision on this topic. Let's say you're arguing to lower the drinking age, which is a very common topic. But, who's going to really care about that? Well, legislators. How do you influence them? That's your imaginary audience, right? And then we just need to get started, right? Best time to start thinking about your writing is now, or 5 minutes ago, but we don't have a time machine. So we need to start planning ahead. Start drafting, taking notes, write down random ideas on a notebook or post-it notes or whatever. You need to leave time and space for your ideas to develop as you build your paper. You can't sit down in one night and write this research paper that we are working on. You have to follow the writing process. You have to build your ideas because I'll be asking questions. Your classmates will be asking questions. If you don't address those, you aren't really writing. You're just doing a solo project and not really caring. Writing is collaboration. Writing is working through ideas, addressing them. Otherwise, you're going to have a stagnant paper that just basically says the same thing and doesn't show any growth or development. And it's not going to be challenging to anybody for their ideas and show them something new and interesting. So when in doubt, I want you to take a break. Talk over your topic, your paper with somebody, or just talk to yourself. What is it you're trying to do? Where are you having problems? What is it that you want to say, and why are you having trouble saying it? Ask yourself a ton of questions. Interview yourself with these questions. If you talk over somebody, that's going to be helpful as well. Find ways to write around it. If you can't say it one way, try saying it another way. So there's a lot of things you can do, but I want you to feel good about your writing. I want you to recognize, of course, that writing is this thing that isn't going to come immediately like divine inspiration. It's going to take some work and time. So allow yourself that time. So hopefully this will be helpful. I have other things that I'll be posting in our course that will elaborate on these things a lot more, but I'm assuming that you know some of these things, but I wanted to share a little bit of my ideas. All right. Thank you.